Sri Lanka is all set to hold its parliamentary elections tomorrow. The polls will be held under strict health guidelines on account of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the results could have far-reaching implications for Sri Lanka's political landscape for years to come. Let's first introduce you to the key players in this battle. The Sri Lanka Porujana Peramona, or the SLPP, led by Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, is widely expected to obtain a simple majority. The party has the backing of Sri Lanka's Sinhala Buddhist majority and has been campaigning with nationalistic fervour. An SLPP victory would seal the dominance of the Rajapaksa clan, with Gotabaya Rajapaksa as president and Mahinda Rajapaksa as prime minister. The SLPP's only viable challenge comes from the Samagi Janabala Vegaya, or the SJP. It is led by leader of opposition Sajith Premadasa and is composed of breakaways from Sri Lanka's oldest party, the United National Party. The SJP has made a right-of-centre pitch during campaigning and has focused on rural areas and poverty alleviation. It also promises to not sell off state assets, a clear retort to SLPP's pro-China stance. There are 225 seats in Sri Lanka's parliament, which is modelled on the British parliamentary system. The party or coalition that secures a simple majority of 113 seats will form Sri Lanka's next government. In the 2015 parliamentary elections, no single party was able to secure a majority. The Rajapaksas are unlikely to be satisfied with a simple majority. The SLPP wants to amend the constitution and expand presidential powers. This requires a two-third majority or a super majority of 150 seats out of the 225. The proposed constitutional amendment has raised red flags among rights groups in the island. It aims to remove presidential term limits and bring the police, the judiciary and the election body under the president's authority. This will be South Asia's first major election since the start of the pandemic, and so President Rajapaksa's handling of the COVID-19 outbreak will be a key election issue. The voters will also get to choose between the pro-China SLPP and the China skeptic SJP. The Rajapaksas are known for their hawkish attitude towards the West and cozying up to Beijing. As always, the issue of Tamil reconciliation will be a major factor for the country's largest minority group. Many Tamils are also calling for an international probe into war crimes during the civil war, something that President Rajapaksa has completely ruled out. And joining us live on the broadcast this minute is G. Parthasarathy, a former Indian diplomat and Indian director at the India-Sri Lanka Foundation. Thanks very much, Ambassador Parthasarathy, as always, for making time. National security is a big talking point, of course, after the 2019 Easter bombings. A lot of promises have been made on that front. What, to your mind, are the key issues that will determine the outcome of these elections?
Before that, may I pay tribute to the Sri Lankans as a people. The way they have handled the corona crisis, just 11 dead and 23 who got infected. They've held a remarkable election campaign where they've been strictly regulated, crowds up to 300, what you can do there, even that you must carry disinfectants when you are there, the masks. I think even the Americans can learn a bit about this, because the efficiency with which the election has been organized and the disciplines which have been called for, I think would do well for everybody to learn from. Having said that, and coming to this situation, yes, as you have said, I expect the President Rajapaksa's party to come through. But I think they are going to face a new adversary. The United National Party, traditionally right-wing, well disposed to the West and very friendly with India, is now, not what it was. And really, Sajith Premadasa's new party, and I knew his father, who used to be Prime Minister of Sri Lanka in the 80s, a remarkably young man. So they are setting up a good democracy, that's first. But on the larger issues, yes, on foreign policy, there are going to be, people are going to look at them very carefully, including India. But the relations, I must say, even with the present Rajapaksa government have been all right. They've been good neighborly. So there's nothing we can say too much. But one does, as you say, find a sort of leaning towards China. I won't call it pro-Chinese, largely because of their experience when they were subject to Western sanctions. So I think really, apart from judging them carefully, there is a need for measures we need to take together with countries like Japan, the United States, and indeed the entire Western framework of the World Bank and ADB, to see that Sri Lanka, unlike Pakistan or so many of these African countries, does not get into a debt trap. They got into a debt trap once in the port which was being which was built in Sri Lanka, in President Rajapaksa's constituency. But I think they have learned their lesson, and this is something which we need to bear in mind. You were talking about China. Yes, the relationship is close. We don't mind. I mean, it's really their sovereign right to have a good relationship with China. But I would caution them on being very careful in allowing things like nuclear submarines to creep into the Colombo harbor. That we would take very seriously. And it has happened once in the past. The other thing is that is the entire question of ports.
Yes.
Colombo port, 90% of its goods and traffic and earnings are from India. And naturally, India has an interest in its expansion. We could certainly get the Japanese, who are experts in building ports, to join in. So we will judge them by those actions. And as I said, there is no reason for us to be anything but friendly. As I said, we are very happy that their democracy is working so successfully. We hope their ethnic problems with the Tamils will be sorted out. So that's up to them. But I think we need to clearly watch this, because as I see it, China is feeling the heat more and more from ASEAN countries, notably close to the Straits of Malacca from Indonesia and Vietnam. They have problems with some 8 other countries on their maritime boundaries, starting from Japan. So I think these are factors we have to bear in mind, because this gives scope for much greater cooperation. It need not be directed against China, but certainly we must work to see that China follows the rule of law. It respects the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea.
Absolutely, and the statement, for example, coming in from Mahinda Rajapaksa, slamming the agreement signed with China on the Hambantota port. So the growing Chinese influence, of course, a domestic issue there that will play a role in these elections. We're going to leave it there for the moment. Ambassador Partha Sarathy, thanks very much for joining us with those perspectives.